One day, there was an American employee named Ronald Bealton who dreamed of living the beautiful American dream, having a house, a wife, and a happy family. He decided to make this dream a reality, gathering all his savings and borrowing a large amount from the bank to start building his house. He bought equipment and construction materials, but before he could begin, he was shocked to discover that his materials had been stolen. The financial pressures began to mount and he found himself bankrupt and in debt, which led to issues with his wife, resulting in their separation and the collapse of his family. This situation forced him to leave his job at the American National Security Agency. Although he wasn't a high-ranking official, he had significant authority, and his financial troubles made the agency uneasy about him. Consequently, he resigned, stayed home, and attempted to enter various projects, but failed. He was left with only a few dollars, feeling utterly hopeless. In this despair, he began to entertain dangerous ideas, such as selling his information to the Soviets. He quickly acted on this thought, called a public telephone, and requested a meeting with the Soviet embassy, claiming he had important information. They scheduled a meeting, and he waited several weeks, letting his beard grow to avoid recognition. On the day of the meeting, he entered the embassy, provided them with critical information, and received several $1,000s in return. On his way out, he shaved his beard in the embassy restroom, donned embassy employee clothing, and took their bus to avoid suspicion from the Americans monitoring the embassy. From that moment, the Soviets initiated a significant campaign to dismantle the largest American espionage operation regarding Soviet cables. So, what was this information? And how did American espionage operate? How did the Americans discover the identity of this American spy? What ultimately happened to him? How did this event lead to heightened American concern over non-American companies entering the undersea cable sector? These are the topics we will delve into in today's episode. Quickly grab your coffee and focus. In the mid-1960s, a new Russian missile, the SSN-12 Sandbox, drew American attention. It was a supersonic cruise missile designed to target ships and aircraft carriers, with a range of 550 kilometers and capable of carrying nuclear warheads. While the missile's capabilities were notable, what concerned the Americans was whether it was guided by infrared technology, which would mean the Soviets had achieved significant advancements. By the early 1970s, the Soviet Union began testing this missile at sea, with early trials leading to failures, including one that exploded. The Americans seized this opportunity to collect debris and analyze whether the missile utilized infrared guidance. They launched a secret mission, deploying advanced submarines to recover over 2 million pieces of debris, confirming that the missile was radar-guided, not infrared. However, the main objective behind American actions wasn't the missile itself, but rather the covert execution of a significant espionage operation known as Ivy Bells. In October 1962, during a critical moment in the Cold War, top military advisors convened around President Kennedy to discuss responses to the Soviet missile presence in Cuba. This situation led to heightened nuclear readiness, with the US at DEFCON 2 for the first time. While advisors advocated for airstrikes and an invasion of Cuba, Kennedy opted for a naval blockade to prevent further Soviet missiles from reaching the island. Tensions escalated and both sides readied their nuclear arsenals. A close encounter occurred when the Soviets shot down an American reconnaissance plane, prompting the US to target a Soviet submarine. However, due to communication issues, the submarine crew almost launched a nuclear strike, which was averted by one dissenting officer. Amidst the crisis, secret negotiations unfolded, leading to the removal of Soviet missiles from Cuba in exchange for the withdrawal of American missiles from Italy and Turkey. This period spurred American intelligence to seek ways to monitor Soviet military communications, particularly focusing on a specific Soviet naval base believed to have unencrypted lines of communication to Moscow. James Bradley, a key figure in American naval intelligence, proposed to exploit these communication lines. His team identified potential warning signs along the coast that would suggest the existence of these cables. American submarines then embarked on a covert mission to retrieve data from these Soviet undersea cables, a task made challenging by the need to remain undetected. Ultimately, the operation succeeded, lasting nearly 10 years, during which the Americans gathered sensitive information about Soviet military capabilities and diplomatic communications. However, in 1981, American satellites detected unusual Soviet naval activity near the spy equipment. When an American submarine rushed to hide the device, it found that it had already been discovered by the Soviets, leading to an investigation that pointed to a mole within the NSA. The mole was identified as Ronald Bilton, who had reached out to the Soviets during his financial troubles. He was eventually captured, confessed to espionage, and sentenced to 30 years in prison, only to be released in 2015. Although he paid a high price, his actions compromised a significant amount of American intelligence. In the aftermath, the Americans maintained a low profile regarding the incident, fearing it would trigger a media frenzy and potentially expose other ongoing operations. They even pressured media outlets like the Washington Post to refrain from reporting on the issue. Ultimately, the covert nature of this operation revealed how crucial undersea cables are to national security. The US remains vigilant against foreign interference in this domain, emphasizing the need for exclusive control over such vital infrastructure. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.